Everybody out like this, out like this, out like this. This is a warm-up that magicians do. I used to do this when I was a magician. That's fantastic. Oh, you don't have to wiggle your fingers, but I love that everyone's doing it. That was very obedient. Everyone's like, yes, magic man, whatever you say. Listen to that guy. Here, put your hands out. Ready, put your hands out. Okay, here we go. Left hand, thumb down, palm out. That was mostly left hands. Right, it's been a long night. Right hand, thumb down, palm out. Take one arm, cross it all the way over the other, okay? Lock your fingers together. Make sure your thumbs are down. Everybody got their thumbs down on this side, thumbs down on this side, thumbs down at the back of the room. Great, ready? Wiggle your thumbs. Wiggle your shoulders, and give me a big thumbs up to start this thing. Magic, yay! You shouldn't start presentations like that. People just ignore you for the rest of it. You'll see folks wandering the streets of Toronto later. You'll be like, I know them. I know where they were tonight. It's fantastic. So I was a full-time professional magician for 10 years. And when you are a magician, the most important part of your job is not tricking people. The most important part of your job is connecting with people. Because fooling people, it turns out, is easy. But making people enjoy being fooled, that is the hard part. That's the real magic. You see, there's only so many different ways that you can connect with someone. Great magicians find ways to bridge the gap between what you know as the magician and what the audience isn't allowed to know, to create something extraordinary in the middle where everybody leaves uplifted, having been transformed for the better. And I'm here to argue tonight that that, in fact, is your job as well. Regardless of what it says on your business card or in your email signature, your job today is to find ways to bridge the gap with the people that sit across from you, to find ways to say, I hear you, I see you, and I'm here for you, even if we don't always agree. To find ways to create something extraordinary in the middle between what you know and what they don't, between what they know and what you don't, to create something magical where everybody leaves every conversation uplifted, having been transformed for the better. But it's getting really hard to do that, isn't it? It's getting really hard because somewhere along the way, we stopped having interactions and we started having transactions. You know what I'm talking about. You know what a transaction feels like. I give you $3, you give me a cup of coffee. Unless we're at Starbucks. I give you $27. End of transaction. No relationship necessary. No humanity required. Doesn't that feel like the billboard for the world in 2024? No humanity required. But it doesn't have to be that way. I had the incredible honor of traveling the world as a magician. I met people in airports and coffee shops, restaurants and hotel lobbies. The people we meet on a daily basis, they have different belief systems, backgrounds, cultures, religions, languages, ideologies, and so each and every day we are reminded that our world is a shared experience. But it's fractured by individual perspectives. You've got a perspective that's different from yours, that's different from mine. Now imagine if we could all understand each other. Wouldn't that be a better world? And we can have that world, but it's hard because everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of an interaction, and interactions are risky. So I'm 23 years old, and I've been trying to make it as a magician for the last 2 years, and it is not working. I'm not getting enough gigs. I'm not getting the responses I want. I can't afford to feed myself. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm down to 130 pounds. My family and friends are concerned. I'm not feeling well, and I'm ready to throw in the towel. I'm going to hang it up, go back to school, tell my dad he was right. No. But I've got a few more gigs on the calendar that I have to fulfill. So I'm at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning for the first flight of the day, and I'm not in a good mood. I got on my comfy jeans, though, my favorite pair of jeans. I got on my zip-up hoodie. Pro tip, some planes are too warm, some planes are too cold. Wear a zip-up hoodie. You can regulate your own temperature. That's the best tip in my keynotes. I've seen CEOs write that down, zip-up hoodie. I like this guy. Bring him back. Give him more money. I got on my favorite jeans, my zip-up hoodie, and my fedora. I always used to wear a fedora when I was a magician. I stopped wearing a fedora because I started speaking at middle schools, and kids are mean. I wish that was a joke. So I got my jeans, my zip-up hoodie, my fedora. I walk onto the plane. I look at my boarding pass. I have the last seat on the plane. I don't know if you ever had the last seat on an airplane before. I never have before. I never will again. It's 45 miles and 45 minutes to the back of the plane. I finally get there, and the bathroom is right there. I can smell it. I'm nauseous. I'm like existentially confused. Like, this is not my morning. You know what I mean? And I look at my seatmate. She's already sitting here. Time out. This is not the story of how I met my wife. I have to tell people that, or they get distracted thinking it's a love story. It's not. Okay, time in. I see my seatmate. She's already sitting here. I'm in my early 20s. She's in maybe her mid-30s. She's an elegantly dressed businesswoman, black pantsuit, pixie haircut, drinking Starbucks and reading the paper. And I'm like, bleh. You ever feel like apologizing to someone as you sit next to them? I'm just like, she doesn't deserve this. As soon as my butt cheeks hit the seat, the pilot comes on. How we doing, folks? Now, in case you don't fly as often as I used to, that's what we call a red flag in the travel industry. You know what pilots don't do at 4 o'clock in the morning? Chat it up for no reason whatsoever. If the pilot's talking, something is wrong. Sure enough, there's going to be a 45-minute delay because someone forgot to put the wing on or whatever. That's all I hear in that moment. And I go to put on my headphones to drown out the misery of my morning, and I never do that. I never put my headphones on in public. I love music, went to school for music, believe in self-care, but what happens when you put your headphones on in public? Tell the whole world, I'm not interested, I'm not available, I cannot be here for you, I cannot offer you the gift of connection today. So I never do that, but I'm having none of this morning. So I go to put on my headphones, and right before I do, I hear this, I like your hat. It's this lady sitting right here. She's like, I'm sorry, I noticed back in the terminal, but I thought it'd be weird to come up and say that to a stranger, but since we're sitting next to each other, just wanted to let you know that I like your hat. Hi, I'm Zoe. I shake her hand. It brightens my morning. We start talking. At some point, we have the same conversation you always have on the plane. I said, where are you going? By the way, all-time dumbest question to ask someone on the same flight as you. Somehow we all do it. I said, where are you going? She said, Minneapolis. I said, what for? She said, a conference. I said, what kind of a conference? She said, marketing. I was like, that's cool. What do you do? She goes, I teach influence and persuasion tactics at Yale University's School of Management, Dr. Zoe Chance. I was like, what? That is the coolest job title I have ever heard in my entire life. Professor of influence and persuasion. Your name is not really Dr. Chance. Are you a spy sent here to figure out how I do card tricks? She says, what do you do? I said, I'm a magician. She goes, get out. I was like, no, seriously. She goes, I love magicians. And I'm like, no, you don't. You know what I mean? Nobody loves magicians. We tolerate magicians. She says, I teach influence and persuasion tactics. I study magicians. She's not kidding. She knows more about magic than I do. We talked for the whole flight. At the end of it, she says, Brian, it was so much fun. Let me know when your next show is back in Connecticut. I said, it's like 2 months from now. I told her where it was. She said, I'll be there. 2 months later, right there in the audience. She comes up after the show. Good to see you again. Brian, I got to bring you to Yale as a guest speaker. Okay. A few months later, guest speaker at Yale for the very first time. That moment changed the trajectory of my life, because as soon as you're good enough for Yale, you're good enough for anybody. And all those companies that weren't willing to pay my fees suddenly were, and I was able to start making a living. And things started going really well. And eventually, it was going so well that I got invited to give a little TEDx talk about my success as a magician, and I freaked out. In a good way first, then in a bad way. I don't know how to write a TED Talk. I called up my old friend Zoe. Can you help me write this talk? She said, sure, of course. She helped me write this talk. I gave it. A few months later, it went mega viral in the early days of the TEDx program. Millions of people saw it all over the world, and I started getting called to share my magic and my message. And one of those calls came from the U.S. government. They said, will you come overseas to the troops on military bases in Africa, in the Middle East, in Europe, and Asia, and share your magic and your message? I was like, of course. So a few weeks later, I'm in Naples, Italy, and my hosts, they said, do you have a day off? Would you like to visit Pompeii? I said, of course. And I go up to Pompeii, and after a couple of hours of this amazing historical experience, I ducked down an alleyway, and it emptied out into a massive outdoor amphitheater. And I realized I was standing on a stage, the same stage where thousands of years earlier, my ancestors in entertainment stood right there and entertained their audiences. It was a surreal moment in my life, a moment I would return to for years. Every time that voice crept up saying, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't deserve this, I would think back to that moment and say, yes, I do. I deserve to be here. A moment that only existed because 5 years earlier, one kind stranger said to a sweaty, existentially confused magician, I like your hat. You have no idea what kind of opportunities await you just on the other side of that next connection. Every interaction is meaningful, and every person you meet is important. Speaker Slam, thank you so much for having me back. What an honor to be here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me back, everybody. What an amazing night. Congratulations. Thank you.